it's as serious, if not more serious, a threat than al-Qaeda. And I think the fact that it is still new to us and we are still trying to determine really the scope of it does make it very, very dangerous.
Attorney General Loretta Lynch calling ISIS a top threat as the terror group continues to grow. According to reports, ISIS remains at least as strong as it was a year ago when American airstrikes began. And many U.S. officials warned that airstrikes alone would not be enough to defeat the terror group. To talk about this more, we welcome in former intelligence officer Colonel Derek Harvey. He's Skyping in from Tampa, where he's the director of the Global Initiative on Civil Society and Conflict, and joining us via telephone from the Jersey Shore, former New York Police Commissioner Bernard Kerik, who also served as the Interior Minister of Iraq, or yes, the Interior Minister of Iraq. Gentlemen, I thank you both. Colonel Harvey, do you agree that ISIS is a bigger threat here at home than al-Qaeda at this point?
On a day-to-day basis, I would agree that al-Qaeda's inspiring people to conduct lone wolf attacks is more of a threat. Al-Qaeda writ large, though, still poses, I think, the larger ability to conduct a massive attack, and that's what they are aspiring to.
Bernie, you, of course, were the police commissioner in New York when al-Qaeda hit the World Trade Center back on 9/11. But do you agree with Colonel Harvey? Is now ISIS more dangerous?
I think domestically, I think they are. And all you have to do is look at some of the messages that's come out of ISIS over the last year. Just in the last few days, calling for attacks, lone wolf attacks in the United States. Look, we've had 70, maybe 75 different either attempted attacks or attacks in the United States since September 11th. Many of these ISIS inspired over the last year. I think we're going to see continued increases. I think with social media, the internet, their ability to communicate, unlike anybody else that has in the past, I think we're going to continue to see increasing attacks and attempted attacks.
Colonel, airstrikes have not done a whole lot against ISIS, and a $500 million program to train up 15,000 Syrian rebel fighters only has about 60, count them, 60 recruits in training. Does this not shout out for a better strategy?
Well, it's clear that it does shout out for a better strategy. The current strategy is insufficient to the task. Many people said it was a year ago when the president announced it. And in fact, in my judgment, Al-Qaeda is stronger today than it was a year ago. But ISIS has gained more territory, has expanded with more affiliates around the world, particularly in places like North Africa, Western Africa, and in Afghanistan. And they have expanded significantly in Syria. Their reach is greater than it was, their finances are solid, and they have many more fighters today than they did a year ago.
Bernie, calls for lone wolf attacks are on the increase. Al-Qaeda and ISIS and other groups calling on Muslims worldwide to carry out these solo attacks, particularly stateside. And we have just seen reports this week, Middle Eastern men intimidating military families, trying to get personal information from them. Are there just too many soft targets without enough protection, Bernie?
You know what? I've said this. I've been talking about this for the last many years, and I think the Colonel just touched on it. Whether it's Al-Qaeda, whether it's ISIS, whether it's Al-Shabaab, Hamas, Hezbollah, all of these groups that follow this radical extremist mentality, there is an increase today, and they're constantly increasing in numbers. Training camps all over Asia now, all over Northern Africa, throughout Syria and Iraq. The numbers are increasing, and I think that's something we're going to continue to see if we don't fight this, if we don't put together a better strategy on the home front. Honestly, it's going to be all about intelligence. I mean, the numbers are too great. We've got to know who they are, where they're coming from, how they're getting into this country. Our borders are porous. How many homegrowns are there? I think intelligence is the key here in this country, but we have to come to a realization, and nobody should be surprised when these things start popping up and people are murdered by these homegrown or lone wolves. I continually hear people say, oh, well, I'm stunned that this happened. No, well, nobody should be stunned. They've been saying it for years. They continue to say it. There's increasing attacks. We have to be prepared.
About a minute and a half remains, and I want to turn back stateside because we have to note the one-year anniversary of Ferguson is coming up. Earlier this week in Miami, the Reverend Louis Farrakhan spoke at a historic Baptist church about it. Want you to listen to what Louis Farrakhan had to say, and then we'll get your reaction.
If the federal government will not intercede in our affairs, then we must rise up and kill those who kill us.
Derek Harvey, you're laboring for civil society. 30 seconds for your comments on that.
Well, it's clear that we've got radicalized voices on the extreme, agitating people and legitimizing violence and actually inspiring violence and actions where we see police being attacked, and it seems to be okay for mobs to take to the streets. First and foremost, before you can bring development, economic growth, and jobs to people and good education, you need to establish security. Legitimate police activity is part of that, and a lot of these communities have black police chiefs and largely black police forces that the Reverend Farrakhan is complaining about.
We will have to leave it there. Colonel Derek Harvey in Tampa, Bernie Kerik via phone. Gentlemen, we thank you for your time. You heard what they had to say. We'd love to hear from you. Here's how you can get in touch with us. You can email us, Facebook us, tweet us via Twitter, or go to newsmaxtv.com/comments. We're coming right back.